Welcome to 10 Talks, real conversations for champions with champions, where a champion life is a 10 life. Thank you for joining our team today. I'm Carlette Patterson, your head sports life coach at the Life Training Academy, and it's our desired outcome to share our passion for sports life coaching by training you to live a 10 life. You and your life matter. Let's get coached. Hi team, welcome to 10 Talks. Today's guest is Nicole, and she is a vice president and really learning how to manage life from a well-being perspective. So Nicole, welcome. We are happy to have you here to share your story of personal, professional, and philanthropic. I know that you're very involved in really making sure that you are living your best life every day. I know you're committed to that as a mom and as an executive and just as a champion giver. So today's conversation is going to be all about well-being. How do we really take care of ourselves personally, professionally, and philanthropically? So team, sit back, enjoy our conversation as we pick up some winning strategies from Nicole. So Nicole, welcome. Just share a bit of your story. We love to start with the power of your story.
So my story, and thank you for having me. So I grew up in rural Wisconsin, very rural. My hometown is 1,200 people. My family is all still there. I grew up in a community with no stoplights, no fast food restaurants, one public school. Really, that was the base of my story. So that's how I started. Family is very important to me. I proceeded to get my undergraduate. I was a collegiate athlete. I was fortunate enough to win a national championship. So
woo-hoo, little victory dance there, baby. So that's not a little thing. That's a huge thing.
Yeah. So the power of team is super important to me. I've seen what it can do very well and what it can do very not well as well. I relocated to Phoenix, Arizona about 15 years ago. I have been at Kitchell for 10 years. Kitchell, we're a commercial real estate development and construction company. Vice president of marketing and communications. So I oversee sales, marketing, and communications in 3 states, Arizona, California, and Texas. I have a spunky 9-year-old who is more and more like me every day, which is good and bad. So all about balance.
Recognize her.
Yeah, sometimes to a fault. Yeah, so I great pride in being a mom. I'm also super competitive. I love sports. I love winning, at work, life and play, all those things. So that's a little bit about me.
Beautiful. So let's start. We want to talk about kind of pre-coaching and post-coaching because I've had the honor of coaching you for a couple of years. And I just want to go back to really where you were when you were, I think, a manager. Let's just kind of start before you became vice president, raising a daughter, that still competitive spirit that you are, and just take us through some of your winning strategies on kind of where you were then, and then we'll start to talk about where you are today.
Okay. Hopefully we have enough time. So I think back to when I first met Carlette and got introduced to coaching. It was actually through transition. So my boss at the time was retiring from Kitchell. He was the president going through retirement. So I really got brought in and met Carlette through that process. And I think one of the biggest things I realized when I first started getting the coaching was it was almost time to grow up. And I mean that in a very good way. I was very comfortable in my position, doing a lot of great things. And Carlette and my former boss at the time basically said, it's time for you to take the next step. Now, in all my life, I've just worked really, really, really hard. And then the next step has kind of just come. But this had to be more purposeful, more planned, with a lot more meaning behind it. So as I kind of grew, I realized, okay, things can't just you can't just work really, really hard and kind of things just kind of fall in place. So that's one of the biggest things that I learned right when we started the coaching. I also realized I had a lot to work on, more than I ever thought.
In a very fabulous way, I must add. So nothing.
Very fabulous way. Yes. I really had not spent a whole lot of time just working on myself and especially well-being and what that means. I think when we started going through coaching, 3 years ago, well-being is probably what comes top of mind, right? It's working out, it's eating right. I wouldn't even have put sleep in that category, quite frankly, a few years ago. I mean, sleep whatever, I'll sleep when I'm older type situation. So I think a lot of that has changed. There a lot more balance, bringing things back into my life that really got pushed aside. I'm too busy for that. I'm too busy for that. I'm too busy for that. And really what I've come to learn is that you need all those things to have balance. And you
And there
can't
is
just,
a way to figure it out, right? I mean, I think that's what's important, is actually knowing that we can do it rather than thinking it's an impossible thing. It's not something we just talk about. It's like, there's a way to do it.
yeah. And that is one trap that you know very well that I've fallen into quite frequently over the years is I don't have enough time. I can't do this. I need to cut something else, but really it's really being more purposeful in the things that you are doing and why you're spending the time on doing those things. Can other people do those things? Do you have a support team that can support you? It's really looking at everything. And that's been probably the biggest change. And it doesn't come overnight. I've needed a lot of reminders. So
A lot of support, I would say. So, that's the power of team, is really getting coached up. And certainly you didn't become a great athlete by just showing up and, getting coached up once a month or something from that perspective. It was a commitment you made every day, and you worked out at it. And we've anchored a lot in your competitive spirit. So how has that worked for you and not worked for you?
So that's a great point. So, when you're an athlete, you're told when to show up, you're told what you need to do, and you know exactly how you need to perform to get to that next level or to support your team. When you show up in business, when you start in the beginning of your career, you're told exactly what to do. You do it, you turn it out. But as you grow and you turn into a leader, you're not told what to do. You are then leading and guiding others what to do. So I think about the competitive aspect, and we've brought back that into my life where, when you transition out of collegiate athletics, you're kind of lost for a little bit. And I wasn't anything near, the level of a lot of other people, but you're lost. You try to fill the gaps. Like you try to do triathlons, or you try to do this, you try to do that. For me, I found CrossFit and it fed my competitive spirit. It fed those things. But what you forget is that it actually bleeds totally into your life in all these different areas. And I think it took me up until kind of getting coached to realize like I can apply those things to exactly what I do inside the corporate world. So that has helped tremendously, thinking through, how to apply what I've learned as an athlete into applying the same things in business. And we do a lot of things here at Kitchell. Like everybody knows here, I'm a diehard baseball fan. So we have methodologies, we have sales goals, we have things that are turned into sports talk, and everybody can relate to that. And that's really, I guess it's probably helped fill my competitive spirit too, just to have that there, but it's relatable and it works. And it gets everybody moving in the right direction.
So Nicole, from a well-being perspective, what you're referring to is just that bringing your whole self to work, personally, professionally, and philanthropically. And so many times we leave our competitive spirit. We think when we leave sports or when we leave high school or college, wherever we finished, that we can't bring that with us. And yet that's who we are. It's not like you can kind of park that competitiveness and be like, okay, I'm not going to be competitive anymore. I'm going to be in the workforce. And in fact, bring that with you. So from a well-being perspective, let's just talk about whole person. Let's just talk about how to honor who you are, what's important to you, being a mom, raising a daughter, you also working out, staying fit, and being a leader and starting to move into that. Like every single one of those were important to you. And as an athlete, when you're a student athlete, you really have two jobs. You're a full-time student and you're a full-time athlete. So you're probably, you're trained up to really manage a lot at a very high level. And yet we want to make sure that when you move into the corporate world or the business world, or even as a parent, that you still get to honor yourself and be able to be competitive. So how did you find the magic in bringing those together?
Well, I don't think I've ever found magic yet. It's all a process, still growing there. So
We're
I
in
think,
inning 5.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So the last 6 months, being in a different kind of season here, we all are, right, in this pandemic. So there's a lot of things that I've really realized in terms of well-being. So I'm a huge advocate for all things well. And I've always stated that in construction industry in general is not very healthy. So I really try to, as you say, live it to give it, like you have to be it in order to give it back. So it's been interesting because on one thing that really got me through that first like 4 to 6 weeks during this was my constant commitment to, making sure I had my workout, making sure I was eating right, making sure I was still sleeping, because you're thinking about like what we're going through physically, you need to have yourself, like you need to be in really good shape right now.
Right.
And it's been interesting. I've been transitioning back to the office and everyone's kind of talking about, they gained this or gained that. And like, for me, like this was awesome.
Yeah, you had time to work out.
I had all this time. I wasn't going on an airplane.
Yeah.
I'm very, very lucky and fortunate to have a home gym that I can, walk into. But like, to me, I was like, okay, the world is throwing something at us. How can I make myself the best self? And I think that's where the foundation started. Then what I really also had more time for was, constant learning and reading. So, Carlette has really done a great job of getting me back engaged into reading all different kinds of books in all different kinds of ways, but really getting that your mental self there. So you started this whole process, and I just think about this now because it's relevant, but like you're at your computer and you're on a call constantly over, and it's like, wait, time out. I need these joy breaks. I need to take these breaks to get my mindset. So it's really trying to figure out how do you get all these elements, and well-being is so much. And I think that's really what's so important. It is so hard to have all the different elements of well-being going right in your life at one point. In fact, I don't know if you can, but
seasons, that's our season tool. There are seasons for it, but the desire is really important, because whatever we're doing for ourselves is the best person that we can show up for everybody else. So if we're not honoring and taking care of ourselves, no matter how much we want to be a great employee or a great parent or a great partner, we just don't have greatness in us. Like we're exhausted. So we can only bring our best, whatever self we are is the self that we bring into everything we do.
Yeah, and that's all you can do is do your best, but you have to do it intentionally. And that's the other thing that I really learned. Like you have to set an intention. Like I have no problem getting up at 4:30 in the morning and working out. Like I can do that. And a lot of other people are like, that's crazy, but it's like, no, I'm intentional. This is what I'm going to do. And I think that's what's really important about well-being is you have to be intentional about it. 2 years ago, I never would have had an app on my phone. Like I use the Calm app to do, 10 minutes of, meditation or thinking or whatever it is that you need. I would have been like, really, are you kidding me? But there's dimensions that you need to bring in your life right now. And especially during this very interesting season upon season upon season.
Yes.
And it's made me a better employee, a better leader, a better mom. Like it's all the dimensions come in. And so that's why it's so important.
So many times when we're wanting to be a champion in our life, we think we need to do it ourselves. And you certainly have gone down that path in terms of just being a strong woman and a strong individual and wanting to be like, I've got this. And so what have you learned about really honoring that literally asking for help and getting yourself a support team makes you incredibly strong versus weak or vulnerable?
So first off, the first thing that comes to mind is I don't have this. And 3 years ago, I would have been like, I've got this. I don't need anyone's help. 2 years ago, I would have said the same thing. And this has been a process for me. This has been a huge challenge, huge performance barrier.
It's called a life journey.
Yes, life journey. But everybody needs help and everybody needs a support team. And it comes in all different ways, shapes, and sizes. And it comes from home, it comes from family, it comes from faith, it comes from the workplace. Like it comes, and it can come when you least expect it too. That's the other thing that I've learned. Like sometimes there can be a neighbor walking by the house and like a simple good morning, sometimes like that can be like, okay, that put me in a good space. Like that could be support team. Like it's all different shapes and sizes. And that's what I've learned. I think when we first started talking about it, I kept thinking to myself, so I just need to, I need to pay people to do things, help clean my house or help like run my daughter here or there when I can't, or walk my dogs or whatever. But it's not that, right? It's
Well, it could
reaching
be an
out.
and that.
Could be an and that, and it will be an and that at some point, right? There are certain things I have learned.
Yeah.
That it can be those things, but there's so many different ways to do that, and it's connecting with my former teammates, or a lot of my friends in my support team do not live in Arizona. They live outside of the state. So, but I've learned that just simply even communicating via text can do a lot for me. And then when I really do need a break, which I have become, I've realized that much more often now. So I can understand now when I have breaks. Before, I would try to power through and be like, don't be a wuss, you can do this, like move through it. But you really do need breaks, and you really do need a support team. And for me, a lot of times when I do need a break, it's to break out of everyday life and go back to my support team, which is mostly my family. But I think you can't even describe it really. That's how important it is.
Well, and it's something that we don't think we need until all of a sudden we have it. And all of a sudden then it's like, what did I do without this? Or why did I wait so long for this? And so let's come up to today, present day. You've been doing an amazing job managing, just all of the challenge that's brought from this season. And so now we're in the middle of a well-being course. We are launching CHAMP10N Wellbeing, and it's a combination of sports, business, and life. And you are on the business team. And so we've brought together a team of 15 people. It's a combination of head college sports coaches, executives, people that are engaged in life. We've got some next geners. It's really this beautiful opportunity to learn from each other, to challenge each other, to support each other in our fundamentals of well-being. We've developed a curriculum, and we're really training for this CHAMP10N Wellbeing. So what have you learned inside the course so far?
So first off, we have an amazing group of people. So being around these people, and granted, it's Zoom, right? But being around these people with different perspectives and diverse backgrounds has been incredibly valuable. So that's been like initially, first off, what's been really powerful for me. And then it's the constant learning about yourself. Constant, right? And every week we've been, we're halfway through, and I feel like it was kind of funny. I was reading a little bit in the book today, and I feel like we could probably use like another 6 months just to even like get there. But I really look forward to it. It is hard to commit the time, I will be honest. There has been, some issues here and there, but I really do. It's so valuable to do it, and powerful. And to hear some of the perspectives and stories from the other folks that are going through the course as well has been really great. Even though we're not all in business, like you said, there's some sports coaches, but their perspective is just as valuable, if not more, to hear from, because we're all dealing with a lot of the same challenges. So, but the biggest thing I've learned is it is really hard to commit the time to focus on yourself for the 15 to 30 minutes a day, which is what Carlette has kind of asked us to do. I was on like this great, amazing streak for a few weeks, and then I fell off the road, and I was like, gosh, this is hard. It seems so simple. Like, come on, you can do this for 15 minutes, but then you just get stuck in your day and you can't let go. And I think being intentional about it, and it'll be interesting to see how I do once the course is done too, right?
Got to keep training, definitely. train. So, let's just talk about constant learning and relationships, because so many times we think if we're in the business world, we need to learn from business people, or if we're in sport, we need to learn from sport people. And we do like to hang out with kind of the same. We find that somewhat safe. What's been the biggest transformation from your thinking that's happened by you being on a team of individuals that none of you knew each other? You know, it really is just a collection of people coming together with the desired outcome of champion change. So we're anchored in a very strong purpose, and we've become a team. We are a team training for champion well-being. So what has that been for you in terms of just helping you with your well-being by showing up and being on a team?
So, the biggest thing for me too is you sit back and you kind of observe and look at what everyone's doing and feeling, and like life's a roller coaster. So we are not all at the top of the roller coaster at the same time when we meet every week, right? Like there are people that are at the bottom, there's people in the middle, and there's people at the top. So you feel like this huge sense of, oh, I'm normal. Like I don't have to be 100% all the time. Would I love to? Yes, absolutely. But I that has been one of the great things you learn through, and you hear some of us are struggling with certain things and some of us are achieving in certain areas, but you learn from that, right? Like, so there's a struggle here and you're listening to how, we're processing and coaching and going through that. And it's like, okay, yeah, I need to remember that next time because I know I'm going to go through that same thing. So that to me has been, it's just awesome. And everyone's in different points in life and career and, transitions. And to me, like everybody is experiencing something like we all have either went through or will be going through, or so it's just great from that perspective.
And let's talk about from a relationship perspective, all of a sudden you have a team of people that aren't your normal team, right? So like we have the people we hang out with every day, the people we work with, there's a ritual and routine and a pattern to kind of who we are with those people. And when you start a new team with a new season anchored in well-being, you have the opportunity to show up and just begin to learn and take the time to really understand, who am I, what's important to me, without the other people from your organization or from, your family really reminding you of who they want you to be. So what have you learned about your identity? That's one of our well-being workouts that we work on, is really understanding who are we, what's important to us, because that's our champion. We've got to be a champion for ourselves from a well-being perspective before we can be a champion for others.
I think vulnerability is one of the biggest things that I've learned. It's okay to be vulnerable. And I think with this group too, it's okay to transition through that. And I joke a little bit, but on one of our well-being calls a few weeks ago, I was in the middle of a tough business situation. And I had just gotten out of the shower. I was trying to figure out how to blow dry my hair. And then I went, you know what? Nope, I don't have time for that. But the great thing was, instead of being really embarrassed about my appearance on video, is I was really supported. Like, it's okay, right? You don't have to show up and be this all the time and be all those things. So I think it has really been valuable to have that outside support team. It's almost what they're outside my day-to-day, week to week, basically, and have that, be there every week. So that's been really great.
So we are training in well-being, which means that you've got to show up week after week and really do the work and train. We've got a playbook. I mean, it's designed from sport. So certainly we don't win championships by just showing up every now and then. There's a great intention. There's a commitment to your team. So from a time management perspective, how have you added something when we're in the midst of so many things in our lives being so full? Because from a well-being perspective, a lot of times we think, I don't have time.
Yeah. So I think, it's so funny because I go back to the coaching we started and you would always be like, just put it on your calendar. And I know when you used to say that to me, I'd probably roll my eyes at you and be like, whatever, Carlette, like, okay, put it on your calendar.
Yeah. How basic can we get? Thank you very much.
Can we get more basic?
Yeah.
But it's true. So you put it on your calendar, right? So I am, I'm committed for that time frame every week, but then I had to figure out a winning strategy for me that would work to commit that 15 to 30 minutes every week. And what I found was I am at my best in the morning, like hands down, bar none, I'm at my best. So I have actually cut out a little bit of my workout time which has not hindered anything. I'm still fine. And I spend, instead of, getting up and going on my phone or turning on my computer before I get my workout in, I'm spending that 15 to 30 minutes doing the reading. And it honestly gets you in this great mindset for the rest of the day and whatever I think my day is going to be, it's not, it never is. So at least I know that I have that time in the morning to really just focus on myself and get my mind right and be like, okay, I got this, rather than be scrambled and frantic, and all these crazy things. So, and then I also, you don't even know this yet, but I started taking a book to my daughter's sports practices and games, because there's a ton of downtime.
Right.
And I'm like, what am I doing? I'm like, I'm on my phone, I'm checking emails. So now I took a book and now I can knock out pages, and it's like awesome. And I'll be sitting there kind of like laughing to myself. I'm like, people probably think I'm crazy, but, but that's actually turned out to be a winning strategy for me. And before, like I think I've read a book in the last week just on the downtimes from watching her practice or play. So
yeah, and you're getting to show up, you're being there for her. It's not, again, well-being isn't a subtraction, it's an addition. So it's not that you have to be like, okay, I can't do anything anymore. It's like, how do I add something that really matters to me, and add it in a way that's intentional and really sets me up for success. So you're doing it. I know it's a moment by moment decision. I know, we win some days and we lose some days, but the desired outcome is to win well-being for us, so that we get to show up and be that person that we want to be. And you're talking about rituals and routines, and they're incredibly important for us to really be able to be the person that we want to be and setting ourselves up. And so being able to really own some time, whether it's getting up a little bit earlier, and what you said about, you're really good in the morning. We need to find really where, from a metabolism perspective, where do we optimally perform? And if we're morning people, how can we really set that up in a way that gets us ready for the day? If we're afternoon people, again, well-being to me is about honoring ourselves and really honoring who we are, and then being able to fit into the team and the world that we belong to and want to support. So another one of our fundamentals in our Champion Wellbeing is love. And this is something that we don't always think about from a perspective of business, sport, and life. So what did you learn in the wellbeing workout about love that really was different to you?
So love doesn't have to be like the gushy stuff. That's a very mature term, gushy. You can tell I have a 9-year-old. Love doesn't have to be about that. So I think the term love, and I really, I'm hearing a lot of, actually professional athletes talk about love these days, and they don't mean it that way either, right?
Right.
It does not necessarily have to be in a relationship with a person, that gushy stuff. You can have a love of life. You can have a love of what you do. You can have, a love of a moment. Like, love is so many things. And that has been very hard for me. But now I finally get it. Again, it's taken a while for it to click.
Okay, we just need a few life reps, right? Just rep, getting in there, figuring it out. Yeah.
But, you hear a lot of people say they love what they do. And I'm always like, really? Do you? Like, do you love what you do every day? And it's like, no, I mean, it's maybe not every day, every hour, but there's certain things that you love what you do. And I think loving doesn't have to be one thing. Love can be so many different things. And really, when you kind of figure that out, you almost have this sense of peace within yourself too, which I wish a lot of the world could have that right now. Like, just find something and love it, right? It doesn't have to be a person. It can be a thing. It can be a moment. It can be something in your life, but just everybody needs it. And that's really hard to talk about in a business when you're surrounded mostly by men. But, it's like, hey, they can tell too, right? Like, we all need it, and it comes in different shapes and forms. So I think it's indescribable, I guess, what it can do for you.
Yeah, it's one of the most powerful emotions, the most powerful everything we have, and we leave it out of our lives in a way that we think, oh, that's for my personal life. But we really want to talk about it from a professional perspective, because we spend most of our time in our profession. And so if we're leaving love out of it, I mean, we're leaving, our hearts, we're leaving a huge component out that is really a game changer in terms of well-being, because if we're having to suppress anything or pretend anything, or so just being able to say, there are things about my job that I love, there's things about it that I don't. Mostly, and I know you are such a relationship person, let's just talk about how to bring love into relationships, personally, professionally, and philanthropically.
So the biggest thing is everyone wants to have a relationship in one way, shape, or form. So if I think about how at Kitchell, where I work specifically, like I pride myself on that. I pride myself on having a lot of relationships within, like, I know most of the people that work for us. I know about them in one way, shape, or form. And I feel like it's just super important to have a connection with people so that you can understand how, they can love and how they can, and it makes them a better employee, which makes us all better. Like we want our teammates to do well, and we want to win, whatever aspect you're at in life. The other thing is it's not always perfect, and it comes in way different shapes and sizes. Like in the personal life, like, there's, when you're a mom to a 9-year-old daughter who's forced to stay at home with you and has the ebbs and flows of emotion, you find out that, like, you can't just love on them. You can't just be like, here, give me a hug. Like they need more. There's different aspects of love that they need. Like, philanthropically, like maybe it's not always monetary.
Right.
What can you do, to really love on someone or something, or support them, or whatever that can be. So if you talk about love, it can be taboo, it can be challenging. In reality, you don't even have to call it that if you don't want to.
Call it whatever you want, right? Yeah.
Call it what you want. You all need it.
Yeah.
In one way, shape, or form. So yeah.
So from a well-being perspective, to me, that's really what it's all about. From a corporate perspective and a personal life, is bringing our best self, and you really being engaged in people's relationships, from caring about them and really supporting them. All of a sudden the Kitchell team can win, because it's not a manufactured kind of thing. It's not the kind of thing where you're checking it off. It's authentic to your personality. It's authentic to what you want. And everybody on the Kitchell team, if they can be their most authentic self and be respected for it, and have kind of a coach and be coached up to really be their best self, which is what you do from a well-being perspective. And that's corporate well-being. It's defined differently for every person. It's defined differently for every company. And that's really what our Champion Wellbeing is about, is making sure that we let everyone figure out what is it that's going to work for you and what's not going to work. Because the minute we force someone to do it, it's never going to happen. And that's when you talk about getting up at 4:30 from an intentional perspective. That's something somebody else would say, are you kidding? Like, no way, not going to do it. But if that's what matters to you and you want to do it, you being supported from the corporation and from, your family, really helps you to be able to say, this is my definition of well-being, and here's how you can support me with it. So you do an amazing job with your relationships, loving on them in a way that is from great strength, and just being for them. Really, how can I support you? How can I be on your team and set you up for success? So there's lots of different ways to think about well-being. And team, I hope you've enjoyed this conversation about just well-being from personal, professional, philanthropic, being a champion for yourself, being a champion for the company you work for, your family. So Nicole, what are your words of wisdom to win well-being?
Win every day. So every day I will get into a flow, and this would be like really good, but then I'll realize like the next day just doesn't work. So my wisdom for well-being is just to win every day.
Love it.
It is going to be hard and it's going to be challenging, but you can do it, right?
And so, win every day. Yeah, I mean, that's the same as sports. You want to win every day, and some days you win and some days you lose, but every new day is a new set, right? Like you get to start over. So that's another way to really hold well-being, is that if it's a day that you lose or a day that's not so fabulous, you can still win tomorrow and
Yep.
be able to find something from that perspective. So Nicole, thank you for sharing you and your winning strategies for well-being, and just for being on our Champion Wellbeing team, and the honor of being able to coach you. So team, it's up to you. You get to go out and win well-being, win it today, win it tomorrow, win for your family, win for your business, win for those that you want to give hope to, and know that we are here and we are on your support team. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. We'd like to get you coached up, so head over to iTunes and Spotify and hit subscribe. And remember, a champion life is a 10 life. You and your life matter. Create a life that you love, give hope to others, and be and choose nothing but 10s. Be you, the world needs you. Go to lifetrainingacademy.com to start your training and get coached.